I was 60 years old when I realized something painful. I didn't lose my life because of bad luck. I lost my life because of the way I was thinking. My name is Robert Miller, a normal American man from Ohio. For most people, 60 means retirement, peace, family time. But for me, 60 meant regret. Because I spent my whole life believing one thing: nothing good ever happens to me. And slowly, that thought became my reality. When I was younger, I was hardworking. I had a job at a warehouse. Not a big salary, but enough to live a decent life. I had a wife, Linda, a small home, a simple routine. But I had one dangerous habit. I complained about everything. If it rained, I complained. If it was sunny, I complained. If I got paid, I complained it wasn't enough. If someone got promoted, I said, they got lucky. Life is unfair. Linda used to tell me, Robert, why are you always so negative? I would reply, I'm not negative. I'm realistic. But deep inside, I wasn't realistic. I was destroying myself. Then one day, the warehouse shut down, and suddenly, I lost my job. At that moment, I didn't feel worried. I felt defeated. Instead of saying, okay, I'll find another job, I said, of course this happened to me. I remember sitting on my couch, staring at the wall, thinking, this is it. My life is over. Linda tried to help. She told me, Robert, we can manage. You'll find something. But my mind was already poisoned. I kept saying, no one hires an old man. I'm too late. I'm not smart enough. I'm not lucky enough. Every day, I repeated those words, and every day, I became weaker. After a few weeks, Linda noticed I stopped trying. I stopped waking up early. I stopped shaving. I stopped dressing properly. I stopped applying for jobs. I started eating junk food. I started sleeping all day. I gained weight. My blood pressure got high, and my confidence disappeared. Linda begged me, Robert, please don't give up. But I looked at her and said, why should I try? We're finished. She stared at me like I wasn't her husband anymore. She said, Robert, the problem isn't the job. The problem is your mind. I got angry. I shouted, you don't understand. Life hates me. Linda didn't reply. She just went into the bedroom and cried. Months passed. No job, no progress. And our house started falling apart too. Bills kept coming. Rent was due. Electricity warnings. And my negative thinking got worse. Every night I said, tomorrow I'll start. But tomorrow never came. One day, Linda sat in front of me quietly. She didn't shout. She didn't argue. She just said, Robert, I love you, but I can't live with someone who already gave up. I laughed bitterly. I said, so you're leaving me too? She nodded slowly, tears in her eyes, and she said, I'm not leaving you. You left yourself a long time ago. That sentence hit me like a bullet. But instead of changing, I got colder. I replied, go. Everyone leaves. And she left. Just like that. After she left, my life became silent. No one to talk to. No one to care. No one to stop me from drowning in my own thoughts. I sold furniture to survive. I moved into a small rented room. I was 55 years old, and I felt like an old useless man. I remember one night, I opened a box full of old photos. A picture of me and Linda smiling. A picture of me at the warehouse with friends. A picture of my younger self, full of energy. And I whispered, where did you go? That night, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just felt empty, like life had already ended. A few days later, I walked outside at night, cold wind, empty streets. I ended up in a park, and I sat on a bench, staring into the darkness. I wasn't planning to do anything crazy, but I was tired. Not tired of work, tired of living. I remember thinking, maybe I was never meant to be happy. And for the first time, I felt truly scared, because my mind didn't even want to fight anymore. That's when I saw an old man walking slowly toward me. He looked around 70. He had a coffee cup in his hand. He was wearing a long coat. He looked at me and said, you look like a man who lost his way. I didn't answer. He sat beside me anyway, and said, don't worry. I'm not here to judge you. I looked at him and said, I don't need your pity. He smiled. Good. That means you still have pride left. I stayed quiet. Then he asked, what happened to you? I laughed. A sad laugh. And I said, life happened. The old man nodded slowly. Then he said something that shocked me. No. Your thoughts happened. I turned toward him. I said, what does that even mean? He pointed at my chest and said, your body is sitting here, but your mind has already accepted defeat. I didn't know what to say. He continued, most people don't lose because they fail. They lose because they keep thinking they will fail. I looked at him and asked, so you think positive thinking fixes everything? He nodded, but not in a fake motivational way. He said calmly, Asterisk asterisk positive thinking doesn't change life. It changes the person living the life. Asterisk asterisk. That line hit my heart because deep inside I knew I had become weak, not because life was, but because I kept telling myself I was weak. The old man handed me his coffee. He said, "Drink it." I said, "Why?" He replied, "Because this coffee is warm, and you forgot what warmth feels like." I took the cup. My hands were shaking. I sipped, and in that moment, I felt something strange, not happiness, but comfort, like someone finally understood me. The old man said, "Listen to me carefully, Robert." I was shocked. I said, "How do you know my name?" He pointed at my jacket. The warehouse name tag was still stitched there. He smiled. "Your name is Robert, but your problem is not your name. Your problem is the story you keep telling yourself." He leaned closer and said, "Your brain believes whatever you repeat. If you repeat, 'I'm a loser,' your brain will prove it. If you repeat, 'I'm unlucky,' your brain will find reasons. If you repeat, 'I can't,' your brain will stop trying." Then he said, Asterisk asterisk your thoughts are seeds, and your life is the garden. Asterisk asterisk. I sat there silently, and he said, "For the next 7 days, do one thing." I asked, "What?" He said, Asterisk asterisk every morning, look in the mirror and say, "Something good will happen today." Asterisk asterisk. I laughed. I said, "That sounds stupid." He nodded. "Yes, it does." Then he said, Asterisk asterisk but negative thinking also sounds stupid, and you still believed it for 30 years. Asterisk asterisk. That sentence destroyed me, because it was true. He stood up. Before leaving, he said, "Robert, life is hard for everyone, but some people suffer twice, once because of problems, and second because of their own mind." Then he walked away, and I never even got his name. The next morning, I woke up. I felt tired. I felt hopeless, but I remembered his words. I stood in front of the mirror, and I said quietly, "Something good will happen today." I didn't believe it. I felt like I was lying, but I said it again. "Something good will happen today." Then something strange happened. I made my bed. For the first time in months, I cleaned my room. I took a shower. I shaved my face, and I went outside. Nothing magical happened that day, but for the first time, I felt like I was moving forward. On the second day, I said the same words again. "Something good will happen today." And I forced myself to take a walk. I walked around my neighborhood, and I realized the world was not dark, only my mind was dark. I saw children playing. I saw people laughing. I saw couples walking. And for the first time, I thought, maybe happiness still exists. On day 3, I walked into a coffee shop. I sat quietly. A woman at the counter smiled and asked, "Would you like a refill, sir?" I looked at her and said, "Yes, thank you." She smiled again, and that small smile felt like medicine. Then she asked, "You're here early. Are you new around here?" I replied, "No. I'm just trying to restart my life." She nodded like she understood. Then she said, "My brother owns a hardware store." The owner looked at me up and down. He asked, "You're 55. Why do you want to work?" Old Robert would have said, "I have no choice." But new Robert said confidently, "Because I still have energy, experience, and discipline." The owner raised his eyebrows. He said, "Most men your age don't even try." I smiled and replied, "That's why I will succeed." The owner stared at me for a moment, then nodded. "You start Monday." I walked outside, sat in my car, and cried. Not tears of sadness, tears of victory. Because after years of darkness, I finally felt alive again. Weeks passed, then months. I worked hard. I learned new things. I started saving money again. I started walking every morning. I stopped eating unhealthy food. I stopped thinking like a victim. And slowly, my body started healing too. My blood pressure improved. My weight dropped. My face looked younger. My eyes had light again. One day, my doctor looked at my reports and said, "Robert, what are you doing?" I smiled and said, "I stopped stressing about what I can't control, because I realized something powerful." Asterisk asterisk negative thinking is like poison. It kills you slowly. Asterisk asterisk. And positive thinking is like medicine. It heals you slowly. 2 years later, I was 58 years old, and my life looked completely different. I had a stable job. I had peace. I had discipline. I had confidence. And then, something happened that I never expected. Linda came back, my wife. She walked into the store. At first, she didn't even recognize me. Then she looked closer. Her eyes widened. She whispered, "Robert." I smiled. "Yes." She stood there silently. Then she said, "You look alive." I nodded. "I am alive." She started crying. She said, "I prayed for this version of you." I looked at her and replied, I wasn't broken because of life. I was broken because of my thinking. Linda sat down, and for the first time in years, we talked like husband and wife again. A few weeks later, I visited that same park again, same bench, same cold wind, but this time, I wasn't there to quit. I was there to remember. I sat down and looked at the sky, and I whispered, "Thank you," because that bench didn't become the end of my life. It became the beginning. Suddenly, I saw an old man walking toward me, coffee cup in his hand, same coat, same slow walk. My heart started beating fast. It was him, the stranger. I stood up quickly and said, "Sir, you saved me." He smiled. He said, "No, Robert, I didn't." I said, "Yes, you did. You changed my life." He shook his head gently and said, "Asterisk, asterisk, I only reminded you of who you were. You did the rest. Asterisk, asterisk." I asked, "What's your name?" He replied, "Henry." I said, "Henry, why did you help me?" He looked at me and said, "Because years ago, I sat on this same bench, and someone helped me, and now I pass it forward." I sat beside him and asked, "So the secret is really positive thinking?" Henry nodded and said, "Positive thinking is not pretending everything is perfect. It is believing that even if things are bad, you still have the power to rise." Then he said something that hit my soul. Asterisk, asterisk, your mind is your home, Robert. Don't turn it into a prison. Asterisk, asterisk. At 60 years old, I finally understood the truth. Most people think their problems are the enemy, but the real enemy is the voice in your head that says, "You can't." Because the moment you believe you can't, you stop trying. And the moment you stop trying, life stops giving you chances. I learned that the strongest people are not the ones who never suffer. The strongest people are the ones who suffer, and still choose hope, still choose effort, still choose faith, still choose courage. I wasted years saying, "My life is over." But when I changed my thinking, I started saying, "My life is starting again." And slowly, everything changed, not because the world became easier, but because I became stronger. And that's when I realized, asterisk, asterisk, your life doesn't become better when you get more money. Your life becomes better when you get a better mindset. Asterisk, asterisk. Because positive thinking is not a quote. It's not a motivational speech. It's a decision, a daily decision, to believe that tomorrow can be better, even if today is painful. And if you're watching this right now, feeling tired, feeling stuck, feeling like life is finished, then listen carefully. Asterisk, asterisk, you are not finished. Your story is not over. Asterisk, asterisk. You're just one positive thought away from a new life. Because the moment you start believing, your life starts changing.